What's up, y'all? We back at it with another chapter of Kagurabachi, man. Chapter 83, man. We got a lot of great information in this chapter, man. And when I think about Kagurabachi, it reminds me of an anime I seen before. Back when I was just like picking random stuff to watch. It was an anime that came out around the early 2000s. And it was about a guy who created like 13 swords. And you had it where he ended up dying. His son accidentally killed him or whatever the case may be. And you had it where the son had a mission where he was going to collect these swords and destroy them for his father, because they were being used for evil things. Most of them were being used for evil. And you have it where by the time you get to the end of the series, he's accompanied by this young girl. By the time you get to the end of the series, he managed to destroy all the swords but one, and he's facing off against the final guy. And you find out that the father masterpiece was the son. The son was the 13th sword. He trained his son to be that sword. And that's how the series ended. It was a really good series. I can't think of what the name was. It started with a K, which is ironic that this is called Kagurabachi. But it started with a K, and the main character had like red sleeves on his arms. He ain't have a shirt. He had some black pants with like gold flowers, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was accompanied by a girl who had like long grayish purple hair. But anyway, that's what Kagurabachi remind me of. I gotta go find that anime and rewatch it, man. It was a really good anime. But that's what Kagurabachi reminds me of, especially after getting this chapter right here and how we find out the true purpose of the Enten sword. But you have it where the chapter starts off. Again, I'm at work right now. I do apologize. Hopefully you guys rock with the grind. And if you do, make sure you thumb it up and subscribe, man. It ain't gonna have the best edits, but you know what I'm saying? I had to get this to you guys. But you have it where the chapter starts off with a flashback, and you have it where Chihiro's sitting down in a hospital bed talking to Shiba after his battle when he, got beaten by Samura for the first time. And we find out 200,000 lives. 200,000 lives were taken on that island. The sword master was just a monster. He was just a monster. Like, oh my gosh. Now I know why Samura is the way he is, because he knows what that sword is capable of. Now, if you would have said maybe like, 2,000, 5,500, don't get me wrong, that's a lot of lives. But if you would have said something like that, I might would have been like, hey man, look, man, hey, tough it up, man. It ain't that big a deal. But 200,000 lives, man, no wonder Samura is the way he is. And I imagine the other sword bearers probably feel the same exact way. They're just probably a lot better at controlling their emotions. But that's insane to think that many people suffer from that. And you have it where Shiba is saying like, yo, that's why your father sealed up the enchanted blades, because of the destruction they caused. Like, yo, he made them swords to protect his country, to protect the people, to protect the innocent. He didn't have any control over what the bearers would actually do with the swords once they got it. He didn't know that that's how the sword master would be once he had that sword. Now I'm very curious, what was the selection process for the sword bearers? Like, what made them say, oh yeah, he's a sword bearer, he's a sword bearer? Like, I'm very curious, and maybe they mentioned it and I'm just not remembering, but I'm very curious what made them choose these characters. Like, what was they outstanding in the military, and they were like, yo, you guys are the top ranking, you guys are the sword bearers. I'm very curious at what happened. But you got it where you find out that these swords was forged to protect the country, but they were used to to hurt so many people, or at least the swordmaster sword. You have it where Chihiro's father was just covered with guilt. He was ridden with so much guilt because what happened. And I could only imagine what he went through in his head. Like, other than the moments he probably spent with his son, he probably was always sitting to the side, just being tormented by his past. I just imagine that's how it is, and we're probably going to see that further along the series, which I can't wait to see. But you have it where Chihiro says, why did my dad give me this sword then? If he was so burdened by what happened on that island because of the weapons he created, why would he give me this sword? Then it jumps back to present day, where you have Chihiro facing off against Samura, and you got them clashing swords, and it just looks so amazing. And then Chihiro realized the level of skill that Samura has over him by saying like, yo, if I had tried to counter his attack, I would have had my arm sliced off. But I've just been deflecting his attacks, which is causing me to still be around, still survive. And then he looks over and he sees a bird, and he says like, yo, whenever you see a bird flock into an area, that usually means death is near. Now, why the hell would you even put that in the air? Like, that's some shit. Like, if I was with Chihiro and this was going down, I'm leaving. I'm like, yo, bro, why would you say some shit like that? It's some shit you don't say. That is some shit you don't say and do in certain situations, and that's one of them. But you got the feathers falling down to the ground, and Samura's asking Chihiro, like, show me? What on earth do you want to show me? And you have it where Chihiro says, like, yo, look, man, I got a way to prevent all the destruction that's supposed to happen in the future without sacrificing any lives. And then you have Samura replying to him like, yo, there's no way. Then your boy Chihiro says, like, yo, we can destroy, or, we can destroy the Swordmaster's sword. Like, once we destroy that, all the internal contracts will be destroyed, and everyone will be free. No one has to die. And then you got it where Samura's like, destroy it. We could just destroy it. Like, yo, no one can destroy it, man. These swords are indestructible. Now, I heard you managed to slice through and break the cloud, but that means that the bearer must have been weak, a novice. And I'm like, yo, hey, don't you talk about Sojo like that. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little upset. Like, yo, don't you talk about Sojo like that. The level of disrespect. And apparently we find out, like, yo, the sword is as strong as its wielder. And the reason that, your boy Chihiro was able to slash through it must have been that, Sojo was a lot weaker than the previous owner, or at least that's how Samura is putting it. But I don't believe that's the true story on how, Chihiro was able to slash through it. And we're going to get through to that as the chapter goes on. But you got it where Samura is telling him, like, yo, that sword is indestructible. Yo, we have to take out the sword bearer. That's the only way to do it, is to take out the sword master as well as myself. We both have to die. It's the best and only way. And then you got it where Chihiro is observing him. And he's like, yo, he's about to come at me. And he's explaining, like, how Samura is able to swap places with the feathers, which is such an amazing ability. But you got it where Chihiro, remember, he's been training to learn the Purity White style, and because of his training, he says, like, yo, his skills feel more honed in. He's able to observe a lot more. He feels a little more confident in this battle, and because of that, he's able to see how, see within the technique of the swapping ability that your boy Samura is using. And so once Samura actually teleports, Chihiro is able to, actually counterattack because he knows where he's going to appear. And you got it where these two guys are clashing swords as Samura is constantly teleporting among the feathers, which is so amazing. Like, you got this one panel where he's all around Chihiro. Like, to the average person, it would look like he's moving fast, but he's actually teleporting. And you have it where Chihiro is observing even more, and he was like, yo, I could barely evade him. But, he can see it right now. Before he teleports, he could see an inch of the spirit energy surrounding the feather that he's going to switch with. But you have it where Samura, not only is he seeing Chihiro observe his technique, he's able to also observe how Chihiro counterattacks or how he moves around depending on the situation. And because of that, he was able to create an opening by leaving his sword, teleporting his body first, and then teleporting his sword to him afterwards and clashing swords with Chihiro. This junk was so cold. This was cold. And you have it where Chihiro is, he gets knocked off the building, falls into the ocean. He's sinking down, and as he's sinking, he's thinking about his father. These original 6 swords were instruments of war to defeat the enemy. So he knew people would die, but I'm imagining he wasn't expecting that many to die, Chihiro's father. But you got it where it jumps back to Sheba, and Sheba's saying, like, yo, the Enten, like, was the sword your father made for you. Like, yo, he created this sword for a reason. He's pretty much telling him, like, yo, this sword is the sword that would end all other swords. And that's why that's how I'm perceiving it. Like, that's why I was able to cut through the cloud sword, because of what the father intended it to be for. And his father was just surrounded in darkness. He struggled in the darkness with the knowledge of that he created the enchanted blades. And because of him, so many lives was lost. But you have it where he looked at his son. He looked at his son as a guide and light, and that's how he was able to forge the Enten sword. And so he gave the Enten for, to Chihiro for him to use it, mold the sword into what it needed to be with his feelings, similar to like what the other sword bearers did to the original, enchanted blades. And so you have it where Chihiro is standing there. Sheba says, that day you were able to draw out his full power. And that's when he faced off against, Hakuri's father. You have it where Chihiro's sword is on the rooftop with Samura, and then you have a fish actually coming towards Chihiro. He touches the fish, and then his sword appears in his hand. You have it where Chihiro finally realized the true purpose of the Enten sword, and that's to eliminate the Swordmaster's sword, and that's how the chapter ends. So all in all, amazing chapter. Loved it from start to finish, man. Hopefully you guys rock with this video, man. Make sure you thumb it up and subscribe, hit the bell, and I will definitely catch you guys in the next one. Peace.